Hello and welcome to Maths Albertua today. Today we want to look at how to identify solid shapes and put them in their correct categories. So let's look at, let me tell you what solid shapes are. All right. Solid shapes are also regarded as three-dimensional shapes. Three-dimensional shapes. What it means is that we can talk about them with respect to length, with respect to breadth, and then with respect to height. Or you don't want to say height, we talk about the depth of the shape, meaning that every solid shape has volume. And all the physical shapes we have all around us in our schools, in our houses, and in our neighborhoods, all of them are examples of solid shapes. We talk about buckets, talk about school bag, talk about television in the house, talk about the table in the house, and several others. But for the sake of calculation in mathematics, we categorize solid shapes into two types. One, there are the ones we call prisms, and the other ones we call them pyramids. So for the sake of this video, or in this video, we're going to treat the first one, how to identify or how to tell when a shape is, whether or not a shape is a prism. Okay? Now, if you look at what I'm having here, this is, what I'm having here is a cube. Actually, is a cube. So a cube is an example of a three-dimensional shape or a solid. Why? We can talk about cube with respect to the length, the breadth, and the height. And then, how do we identify prisms? Or can we actually mention the shapes we classify under prisms? Of course, yes. Example of such shape is a cube. Why is a cube an example of prism? We say that prisms have constant or regular cross section when we cut them along their length. What it means is that this cube you are seeing, if I cut this cube from the beginning down to the end, and I take out the parts I've cut out, if you look at it, it's going to look like a square. Not that it's going to look like a square, it's going to be a square actually. So the cross section of a shape means when you cut through a shape, the two-dimensional shape you see, maybe you see something like in some shapes, when you cut along their length, you will see something like a circle. Like for example, you see something like a circle. Sometimes, if you cut through them like a cube now, if you cut through a cube along the length, the cross section is going to be a square. It's going to produce a square. So because the cross section of a cube does not change, wherever you cut along the length, is going to keep giving you that two-dimensional shape, which is a square. We classify cube under prisms. That's because it has a regular cross section. How about a cuboid? If you want to know examples of other cuboids, you have if you have a block industry around where you live. Now, block is an example of cuboid, or you have a carton. It's an example of cuboid actually. So if I cut this cuboid along the length, the longer part of the shape is called the length. If I cut this cuboid along the length, if I cut down, what do you think will be the two-dimensional shape that will produce? Yes? Okay, it's going to be a rectangle. So wherever you cut, it's going to give you that particular kind of constant rectangle without changing. The rectangle is not going to become bigger or become smaller. It's going to remain the same kind of rectangle anywhere you cut. That's why we classify cuboids among the family of prisms. Okay? Then we have the other one called cylinder. Of course, you know what a cylinder is. There are several examples of cylinders. We have a tin of milk is an example of cylinder. We have pipe. Pipe is an example of cylinder also. So for the cylinder, if you cut through, of course, this the body of this cylinder is called the curved surface. The cylinder has three faces actually. It has the top circular face. Now the the circular bottom, and then the body is called the curved face, meaning that it has 3 faces in all. So if you turn the height or the length this way and cut, what do you think will be the 2-dimensional shape that you will see when you are done cutting? Okay, let me help you out. It's going to be a circle. It's going to be a circle, and the circle will continue remaining constant wherever you cut. It's going to give you the same similar shape, the same kind of circle wherever you cut all through the cylinder. Now, so that means that number 3, a cylinder is an example of a prism. Now, if you look at what I have here, is a cone. Now, do we classify cone under prisms? Let me demonstrate first. Then you can now decide whether or not we classify this one under prisms. Now, if you look at this one is the circular base of the cone. Now, if I cut close to the circular base of the cone, I'm going to have the cross section I will have is going to be a circle. If I move away from this place and cut a little bit away from the circular base, do you think the circle I'm going to see will be the same as the one very close to the circular base? The answer is no, meaning that a cone is not to be classified among the family of pyramids of prisms. Actually, a cone is a pyramid. We'll look at it in another video. All right, so basically I have classified, or I have mentioned 3 basic examples of prisms. I mentioned a cube. The cross section of a cube is a square. I mentioned a cuboid, example block. If you cut this cuboid along the height, the cross section is going to give you a rectangle. And then thirdly, I talk about a cylinder. If you cut along the height or the length of the cylinder, the cross section you see is going to be a circle. That's why we classify. There are other examples of prisms. Actually, there are other examples of prisms. Now I have some shapes here that I want you to tell you. You will point out to me which one you feel, or you. Okay, we are here. Now, if you look at all right, so I have like 3 shapes here. So you are going to tell me, state the cross section of the following shapes. This is shape number 1, shape number 2, and shape number 3. Tell us when you cut through the length of this shape, the cross section you're going to see. This one too, you tell us number 2, and this is called a triangular prism. When you cut through it along the length or height, what type of 2-dimensional shape are you going to see? Now, thank you so much for your patience from the beginning to the end of this video. Please do well to like, to share, and to subscribe. Please do well to tell somebody about Math Albertua. God bless you.